Look at your phone right now. You have an app that can tell you down to the day when a baby is due. You have blood tests that can confirm pregnancy before you've even missed a period. You have ultrasounds that let you watch a heartbeat flicker on a screen before the mother even feels a kick. Now imagine none of that exists. No apps, no tests, no screens. Just you, your body, and a group of people around a fire trying to figure out one of the most important questions a human community has ever asked. Is she pregnant or isn't she? And here's the thing, for over 99% of human history, this question had no scientific answer. No hormones were measured, no sticks turned blue, and yet somehow ancient humans got remarkably good at knowing. The evidence for how they figured this out is genuinely fascinating, and honestly, a little unsettling once you understand what they had to rely on. Let's go back, way back. For early Homo sapiens, tens of thousands of years ago, pregnancy wasn't a private medical event. It was a survival calculation for the entire group. A pregnant woman needed more food. She couldn't run as fast from predators in later months. She would eventually need help gathering, hunting, or migrating less. So knowing early, really early, wasn't just curiosity. It was logistics. But here's where it gets interesting. Without any biological testing, ancient humans had to become expert observers of the body. And the first clue was the most obvious one, the missing moon cycle. Long before calendars existed, humans tracked time by watching the moon. Some of the oldest known markings by humans, scratches on bone fragments dating back over 20,000 years, are believed by many researchers to be lunar tally marks. Women in particular likely tracked their own cycles this way, notch by notch, moon by moon. So when a cycle didn't come, that absence itself became data. A missing notch on a bone wasn't just a missing mark. It was possibly the earliest pregnancy test in human history. But a missing cycle alone wasn't proof. Ancient communities had to watch for more. Here's the question sitting in the back of your mind right now. What if a woman's body didn't show obvious signs for weeks? What did they do then? They watched everything. Nausea was one of the earliest recognized signs, and it's remarkably consistent across nearly every ancient culture we have records of, from Egyptian medical papyri to Chinese texts to oral traditions passed down in indigenous communities. Vomiting in the morning, aversion to certain smells, sudden disgust toward foods once loved, these patterns were noticed, discussed, and eventually expected. And this is where it gets almost funny in a very human way. Ancient people ran actual experiments to confirm pregnancy, not lab experiments, body experiments. One of the oldest documented pregnancy tests comes from ancient Egypt, recorded in the Berlin Papyrus, dated to around 1300 BCE. A woman would urinate on wheat and barley seeds over several days. If the wheat sprouted, they believed the baby would be a girl. If the barley sprouted, a boy. If neither sprouted, no pregnancy at all. Here's the part that should genuinely surprise you. In 1963, modern scientists actually tested this ancient method, and they found that the urine of pregnant women did, in fact, cause the seeds to sprout more often than the urine of non-pregnant women or men, likely due to elevated hormone levels changing the urine's composition. The gender prediction part was nonsense, but the core pregnancy detection, roughly 70% accurate. 3,000-year-old farmers essentially invented a crude but functional biological test through nothing but observation and trial and error passed down generation to generation. But not every ancient culture relied on seeds. Some watched the body's shape and rhythm even more closely. In many hunter-gatherer societies, older women in the group, grandmothers, midwives, elder aunts, became the walking encyclopedias of pregnancy knowledge. They knew what a woman's breasts looked like in early pregnancy before any outward bump appeared. They knew subtle changes in skin tone, in how a woman moved, in her appetite, even in the sound of her breathing as her body quietly began redirecting resources toward a second heartbeat. This knowledge wasn't written down. It couldn't be. Writing didn't exist for most of this history. Instead, it lived entirely in oral tradition, passed from woman to woman, generation to generation, refined slowly over tens of thousands of years, like a recipe adjusted a pinch at a time until it worked. And here's a twist that often gets overlooked. Pregnancy detection wasn't only about biology, it was deeply social. In many ancient communities, a woman confirming her pregnancy triggered immediate changes in her environment. She'd be excused from dangerous tasks, given priority access to food, sometimes moved to safer locations during migration. Knowing early wasn't a luxury. It could be the difference between a healthy birth and tragedy for both mother and child. As humans moved from small nomadic groups into early agricultural societies, pregnancy knowledge became even more systemized. Ancient Greek physicians like Hippocrates documented physical signs methodically. Ancient Indian Ayurvedic texts described monthly developmental stages of pregnancy with surprising anatomical detail for their time. Chinese medicine developed pulse reading techniques where practitioners believed a distinct pulse pattern in the wrist could indicate pregnancy, a method still referenced, though not scientifically validated, in some traditional practices today. So somewhere between a scratch on a bone, a sprouting seed, and a grandmother's trained eye, ancient humans built an entire invisible science, one based purely on pattern recognition, community memory, and thousands of years of trial and error. And here's the philosophical part worth sitting with for a second. Every method, the moon tracking, the seed test, the elders' intuition, none of it understood why it worked. They didn't know about HCG hormones or estrogen shifts or embryonic development. They just knew that certain signs together meant something was changing inside a woman's body. They built confidence through repetition, not explanation. In a strange way, that's still how a lot of human knowledge works today. We often act on patterns before we fully understand the mechanism behind them. Ancient humans just had to trust the pattern completely because there was nothing else to trust. Think about that the next time you see a two-line pregnancy test. That little plastic stick is the modern endpoint of a chain of curiosity that stretches back through Egyptian farmers testing seeds with urine, through bone-carving women tracking the moon, through grandmothers reading bodies with nothing but decades of watching. The test may have changed. The question never has.